Hello everyone. So it's Friday, time for another Friday reads, and it's that time of the year in which it's not even 5 and I have to turn on the lights because it's dark. Yeah, so this week I managed to finish 4 books, but before we get into that, last night we had our book club meeting, and we were talking about Storygraph, and of course I have heard about Storygraph before and never thought that I wanted to try very hard, but they said that it was really good, so I decided to sign in. I put a couple of books that I have read and enjoy, and a couple of things that I normally like in books, and it gave me so accurate recommendations that I thought, okay, maybe this is the thing for me. I don't have Goodreads because I don't want to give my data to Amazon freely. So I have always just written down the books I was reading in a notebook. So I cannot do what everyone is doing of just downloading my data and uploading it there. I'm doing it manually. And my notebooks go all the way back to 2001. So it's a lot of work, but I'm slowly going through putting the data inside Storygraph, and actually I think I'm going to try and use that and see how I go. But it has been a very interesting ride so far. I mean, in 2001 I was 13, so I was just reading these cheesy romantic things, and then I had a huge historical fiction kick with Ken Follett when I discovered Ken Follett, and then also all these sci-fi classics like Asimov and 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, and then I had a kick of Icelandic literature for some reason. I was reading all the Icelandic books I could find, and I am currently putting the data in for 2009, and apparently that year I was obsessed with science non-fiction. So it's a very interesting look at how my reading has been evolving, and also how much faster I read now. But yeah, I just wanted to say that it has been a fun ride, and apparently I'm going to be trying Storygraph out. And if you don't know what Storygraph is, I will put a link down below. It's in beta stage now, but they have already a lot of cool features, so I'm hoping that it will improve with time. There are a few things that I would like to see improved, but overall it's quite good. So yeah, and the recommendations were spot on. Like, several of the books I was recommended I already had in my list of things I was interested in, so very, very impressed. So yeah, apart from that, as I said, I read 4 books. The first one I finished was Girls Will Be Girls by Emer O'Toole, and this is a reread for me. And this book deals with the gender divide and how it affects our lives in a very basic way sometimes, and how gender boundaries are so random and so arbitrary, and yeah, we let our whole lives be defined by the fact that we're men or women, even though that's not, there's nothing that means that has to be our identity or our gender or such a big part of it. And this book explores that really, really brilliantly, and I would recommend to everybody. The second book I finished is Freedom Roots by Laurent, Dubois and Richard Lee Turtis, and this was a history of the Caribbean. And this one I had mixed feelings about because it is quite dense and it is quite hard to go through, at least for me. And the focuses is a bit scattered. There are several chapters that focus a lot on Cuba, and then it goes to Grenada or some other place, and then there are other islands in the Caribbean that it doesn't talk about at all. So in that sense, I thought it was a bit unbalanced, but I think that the story that is there is quite accurate and quite interesting, even though it's dense. And it gives an idea of of what happened in the Caribbean. So if you're interested on Caribbean history, this might be a good one to try. I don't know of any historical books about the Caribbean that are aimed at readers, more wide readers rather than academic readers. So this is a good start, but the book itself I think could have been more accessible, if that makes sense. The next one I finished is The Mirror and the Light by Hillary Mantel, and this is the third book on the Wolf Hall trilogy, and it follows Thomas Cromwell sort of in his way down from the favor of the king, Henry VIII. And it starts with the beheading of Anne Boleyn, which was the second wife of Henry VIII, and with him marrying Jane, which was his third wife. And this one was quite brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I think it combines the best of both of the first two books in the trilogy. And I didn't find it particularly hard to go through. I listened to the audiobook at the same time as I was reading, which helped me quite a bit. But I found it quite interesting. I especially liked the discussions about religion and power, because this book is mainly about power, the struggle to get power, which with the US election, I guess it's quite a relevant topic. But yeah, I have filmed a full review for this that will be coming up on Sunday. So if you're interested on more of my thoughts on The Mirror and the Light, please go check that one out. And then the next one I finished is A Curious Ambiguity by Gautama Suri. And this book is about mathematics at core. So it is a novel. It's a book about this young adult in India that moves to the US to study. And in principle, he's expected to study something useful like economics or something that he can use to make the money that it costs to send him there. But his grandfather was a mathematician, and he taught him the love of mathematics. And in the school of in the American school he's going to, he finds this professor that has the same love for mathematics. So he gets enthralled in these discussions where math touches philosophy, in what is infinite, what is certain, and that is what the book centers about if mathematics gives us certainty about the outside world and not just about the numbers. And it follows this boy in his research of mathematics, but also at the same time he discovers that his grandfather had a past in the US that he didn't know about. So he also researches what happened to his grandfather, and he discovers that same conversation that he was thinking with his teacher and his friends, that his grandfather had those same questions about how we can be certain about things and how mathematics helps us to be certain about things. And it is this parallel thing, and overall it is just about mathematics and about the love of mathematics and this abstract thought. However, I found it a bit too much into the mathematics, like the story was not developed, the characters were not developed, so it fails a bit as a novel, but the mathematics on it were beautiful. So if you like mathematics, you might still like this book, but I don't think it will be for the average reader that just wants to read a novel. And then the last one I just finished last night, just before my book club, because it was for the book club, and that was The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld. And this one follows mainly three women in the Bass Rock, which is an area of Scotland. And one of the women is in present time, and the other one is just after Second World War, so I can imagine in the 50s. And their lives are interconnected, and we learn how they are interconnected throughout the novel. But I think the most important thing that this book does is talk about women and how violence is put on them, how violent their lives are despite them not being the source of the violence, and about misogyny at the end, I guess. So Ruth, which is the one in the 50s, has recently been married to this man that has 2 boys from a previous marriage, and she's trying to do the best she can in this big house in Scotland. It's very airy and this gothic feeling, a bit like Rebecca. It's very good at doing that, and especially the Ruth storyline has that feeling a lot. So Ruth lives in this airy house with the husband and the 2 kids, and she's not happy. Basically, she's struggling to if she wants to be a mother or not, but at the same time the expectation is that she's going to be a mother, but her body also doesn't seem to be willing to have a baby. And then the husband is not as nice as he could be, and she's struggling with all these things and all the violence on how she's treated as a second-class citizen. And then we have in the present time Vivian, who is related to Ruth in some way that we learn. She's sort of in a quarter-life crisis. She is having some issues and with several men that are not very nice to her. And then she meets Maggie in a very unconventional way, and Maggie is amazing. Maggie is this crazy, no boundaries type of person, and I think she helps expose how men are violent to women, but we are so trained not to see it, and Maggie sees it and says it out loud. And I think that this is the best part of the book, the misogyny, the exploration of misogyny, and the ambience, that gothic ambience. I think that it does those both things very well. I had some troubles getting into it at the beginning because the structure is very unconventional, and there are little snippets of other things and ghosts and things here and there, and it took me a while to understand who was talking in each part. So yeah, I think that for me the reading experience was not enjoyable, but I can recognize and admire what the author was trying to do in the book, and I think it is a good book. It's just probably not the book for me. So yeah, those are all the books I read this week. I am currently reading The Empire of Gold by Esi Chakraborty, which is the last book in the Dubois trilogy, and I'm not very far in. I'm maybe like 20 pages into it, but I'm enjoying it so far, and that's in audiobook. I don't have any physical book at the moment. I just finished this one last night, and I haven't picked anything up today yet because I was playing with Storygraph. But I have a pile of possibilities for next week, and I'm hoping to get to some of these. We are currently in a semi-lockdown in the Netherlands, so all the restaurants, cafes are all closed, the libraries are closed, the museums, the cinemas, not that I was going to any of those things, and also there is a very limited amount of people that can meet at one time. So yeah, we are not in a very strict lockdown, but we are supposed to stay at home a lot more, so I'm expecting to be reading a lot. So the first one I want to read, because I have been wanting to read since I got it, is Half-Blood Blues by Esi Edugyan, and this one is about a black man around Second World War in Germany. So this should be interesting, and since I was in Germany relatively recently, I really want to read it before the atmosphere goes away from me. The next one I want to read is The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abi Dare, and this one is about a woman or a girl in Nigeria, I believe, that is married off to an older man that has already several wives, and she's the third wife. And she's expected to be this silent and mild girl, but she's not, and how everyone reacts to that. This sounds really, really good. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Then for my non-fiction November, the first one I would like to pick up next week is The Ungrateful Refugee by Dina Nayeri. And this one is, as far as I understand, just about the refugee experience, and how some things suck, and you cannot really say that because you're supposed to be grateful for the country that kept you, but the fact that you're asking for refugee status doesn't mean that you actually want to be in that position. So yeah, this should be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it. And then the last one I would like to at least start next week is Viaje, Portugal by José Saramago, and this again is just Saramago's thoughts on Portugal as a country. And yeah, as I have said many times, I really love the way that Saramago thinks. So I'm really looking forward to see what he thinks about Portugal. Yeah, let me know if you have read any of these books, what you thought about them, if you like them or dislike them, or what are you planning to read next week, or what did you read last week. And until next video, bye!